Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Melanie. This is Adventures in Hostessville, and welcome back after a pretty long hiatus to episode 26 of the Vintage Magazine Project and the first episode of the October 1945 Better Homes and Gardens.
Ba-da-bum, ba-dum-bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
So the first episode of the month is always the cooking episode, and of course Better Homes and Gardens has a lot of options, and there's a lot of push for things that don't use any points or don't use any sugar or don't overwhelm your ration book, because the war is over in October 1945, but life is not back to normal. Like here, it's carrot chiffon pie because you can't get canned pumpkin because of the cans. Or there's an ad in here for Brer Rabbit, so you can use this molasses and you don't have to use up any of your sugar. Ways to use the vegetables from your victory gardens. But I think I am going to go with the 1945est ingredient of all time, and that is, of course, Spam. So there's a Spam ad in here with a recipe for Spam and Cranberries, apt for autumn appetites. It says, tart contrast to Spam's unequaled blend of mild ham and tender, sweet pork shoulder meat. That was my nickname in college. Oh yeah, this is good until 2023, and I've had it for at least 2 years. So we're gonna make this Spam and Cranberries, and the first thing I have to do is slice my Spam. So, don't have a cutting board either. Everything I own is in boxes in the basement. Okay, here is one that is only mildly dirty. And then I do actually have, a knife that's pretty sharp. I just cut my thumb. This is going swimmingly. Okay, so Spam is a product that was around as of the 1930s, but got really famously popular. Oh, it's fragrant. So Spam came out in the 1930s and was just meant for regular people, but with the passing of the Lend-Lease Act in, I think, 1941, Hormel started sending millions and millions of cans of this stuff from Austin, Minnesota to Europe and the Philippines and Hawaii and Guam and Europe and all of those places. Okay. I got the kind that is 25% less sodium. So they didn't have that in 1945, but they have it now. Ooh. 25% less sodium than an actual salt lick. Okay, what am I doing? I'm just making slices. But at the end of the war, they realized they kind of got to figure out how to get back into American homes, and especially considering that a lot of these American homes are going to have GIs in it who are probably disinterested in ever eating Spam again. So a lot of things like this come out, these ads, these recipe contests, these new ideas. So it's not just Spam and eggs, it's Spam and Cranberries, or it's, Spam chop suey, or whatever. And another company that is about to transition out of wartime into something that will change cooking forever is a completely non-food related defense contractor called Raytheon. And October 8th, 1945, they are going to file the patent for the very first microwave oven. Okay, that is sliced up. Now we need the cranberries. They don't say how many. I bought this bag from the co-op. They're local-ish. They're from Wisconsin. Okay, so the way that a microwave oven works, and if you already know this, you are much smarter than me, and feel free to skip forward. But inside the microwave oven is a thing called a cavity magnetron, and that is what allows the electricity to convert into these microwaves, and then those microwaves go into this metal box, and they kind of ricochet around because they can't go through the metal, so it's sort of like a Faraday cage, but they can go into the food, so when they ricochet off the edges, then it goes into your food, and when it gets in there, those microwaves make the water molecules, and to a lesser extent, the fat and salt molecules vibrate, and then when they vibrate, that creates heat, and then the heat cooks the food. Ta-da! But the cavity magnetron was not invented so that people could have an easier way to pop their popcorn. It was actually created to work radars during the war, which is really important for England at this point because they are getting just nailed by the Luftwaffe. So they want to be able to use this radar to detect the bomber planes as well as submarines and other things like that. And they do. They create this thing. They make it work. But they don't have the resources at this point to manufacture it. England makes an agreement with the United States that they can have this technology for free if they'll start manufacturing it and come help England fight the Nazis. I filled this too full of water. Oh. Woo. So it gets sent to America, and the United States contracts with a couple of different businesses to manufacture these, and one of them is a company called Raytheon, where the cavity magnetron ends up in the hands of Percy Spencer, who's my new favorite guy. The next thing I have to do is get these cranberries cooking, and they say that I should use a half a cup of sugar to each cup of cranberries. That seems like a lot of sugar. I admit I have a little bit smaller sweet tooth than a lot of people, so I don't know, but it's going with Spam. It's not in a pie. I don't know. Let's be sensitive to our sugar rations, people. So Percy Spencer is this sort of amazing, like, autodidact. He was born in 1894 in Maine somewhere, and he's basically orphaned twice. Like, he's double Oliver Twist, because his parents die, and he gets sent to live with this aunt and uncle, and by all accounts, that was great, but then the uncle died when he was 7 or something like that. So he ends up dropping out of school altogether after 6th grade, I think, when he's 12, and going to work in this 3 1/4, maybe? Going to work in this spool mill. But when he's about 16, he hears that the local, I think, water mill is going to convert over to electricity. So this would be right around 1912, give or take. So that's really new, and he's super excited about it. So he goes out and teaches himself everything he can about electricity, and then gets hired there and is one of the 3 guys that run the electric water mill. My canisters are also all still in storage, so I'm digging directly out of this bag like a absolute Neanderthal. Right around that time, 1912, is when the Titanic sinks as well, and one of the things that's in the news a lot after that is the telegraphs, and the Harold Bride, the Marconi operator, who sort of, is one of the heroes of the case, and he gets really interested in these radio waves and telegraphs and that kind of thing. He decides he wants to learn about this. He enlists in the Navy. This is now coming up on World War I, and he wants to study radar. He basically just sits on watch all the time, but he's like, no big deal. I found these textbooks, and he uses that time to teach himself calculus and metallurgy and trigonometry and physics and all of this stuff. I only put in 1/3 as much sugar as it says I should, and it already seems real sugary. They're pretty, though. Anyway, he gets out of the Navy, and he ends up going to work for this company, Raytheon. One of the founders of Raytheon is a man named Vannevar Bush, who will go on to be the science advisor to President Roosevelt during World War II, so sort of how all of these connections are made. And by the time World War II comes around, Percy Spencer is in his 40s, and he's one of the heads of it, and he is sort of the expert on tubes. And so he's the guy that gets given this cavity magnetron to work on, and his big game is to see how they can increase production on it, because when he gets it, it's very complicated, and they can make about 17 of them in a week. When he gets done with it, they are making 2,600 a day. I didn't really understand it. It had to do with soldering techniques. I am not an amazing autodidact. I'm just trying to figure out how much sugar should go on these cranberries. Okay, so now I just add a little hot water. It says I'm going to put these in the pan first. It looks like they're using a skillet in the picture, which is good news because a skillet is the only kind of pan I currently have. Hostessville is a real minimalist right now. Okay, so this water is hot, so put it on to boil. I don't know. A little hot water seems non-specific. Is that a little? Maybe. Well, let's try it. You can always add more if it scorches. Okay, and now I guess I just arrange this Spam artistically on the top. So, the war is coming to an end, and Raytheon is essentially a defense contractor. That's what they do, but they're always looking for something else as well, and so is Percy Spencer. So he notices one day while he's working on these rays, a candy bar that he had in his pocket that got hit by these rays melts. See why I like this guy? He's got a safety candy bar, just in case he gets peckish while he's fighting fascism with science. So he is not the first guy ever to notice that happened with rays, but he is apparently the first guy to say, I wonder what would happen if I put some popcorn in there. So he does, in fact, cook popcorn is the first thing that is cooked in a microwave oven, and it works and it pops. And so he's like, I'm gonna try an egg. The egg explodes in his coworker's face, so, live and learn. But ultimately they figure out, it's gotta be this metal box, it's gotta have this tube for the magnetron to go in, and this is what it's gonna work. And they create the first microwave oven. The patent goes out, like I said, on October 8th, 1945. The patent doesn't actually go through until 1950, but they're not waiting for that patent to be through to work on things. And in fact, one of the first things that he comes up with is a top secret project called Speedy Weenie, which is a vending machine where you can get a hot dog. Because these early microwaves aren't practical for consumer usage. They're enormous. They're 5.5 feet tall. They weigh 750 pounds. They cost $5,000 in 1945 money, which is like hundreds of thousands of dollars now. So their applications really are limited to restaurants and ships and aircrafts and things like that. It says I just put it into a hot oven for 10 minutes. I'm gonna assume 400? Sure. What the heck, 1945? Let's play it fast and loose. Okay, let's see. I guess, okay. Can you see this? I guess I would have thought it would have looked a little bit more cooked. There's still water sitting in it, so maybe I misjudged on how little a little hot water is. I also thought the cranberries would seem more cooked. They don't. There's a big line of sun right on my chest there. Let's pull it over here. And in the pictures, the Spam looks a little more browned. I already can say that if I was gonna do this again, I would brown the Spam first. Maybe they just assumed I knew that. Percy Spencer never actually got any money, really, off of it. He didn't get any royalties or anything from Raytheon. He got a $2 honorarium. That was what you got at Raytheon when you invented something. As an employee, it's your job to invent things for them. And he had like 150 patents with them by the time he died. He also had multiple honorary doctorates. He had the Distinguished National Service Award. There is a building at Raytheon that is named after him. So he did okay. And the microwave did as well. Unfortunately, he never lived to see it become this ubiquitous thing that's in everybody's home, because that didn't happen until the 1970s. He died in 1970. But he did get to see it manufactured and marketed commercially. And the very first microwave, they actually did a contest at Raytheon amongst employees as to what the name should be, and the winning name was the Radar Range, all one word. That is pretty badass. So at whatever point it is that I actually find my microwave, I'm for sure gonna start calling it the Radar Range. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can know better than Hormel and just fix their recipe. That's what I think it should look like. I mean, it's still Spam and Cranberries. That hasn't changed. But let's just see if I was right with my little fixes. Oh, hot. Really hot. That's not bad. That's actually surprisingly, I'm gonna eat all of this. It's salty and it's tart and it's a little sweet. I feel like you could sell this at some hipster restaurant for a lot of money. I'll be seeing you in all the familiar places.